You have really been leading the fight on exposing the widespread voter integrity issues, election integrity issues, voter fraud issues that the Democrats continue to claim are simply a myth. And I wrote about what we have going on in Nevada. Dirty voter rolls yield dirty elections, and you retweeted that article for me, and I thank you for that. I quote you in that article because you had just had a meeting at ALEC in which you said the greatest foreign influence in our elections are aliens who are getting on the rolls and aliens who are voting. Can you expound on that a little bit to the audience?
Sure. We've been litigating these cases at the Public Interest Legal Foundation that I run going back years, and one of the cases we're doing involves citizenship verification. Your listeners might be shocked to hear that to get on the voter registration rolls, it's just an honor system. There's no checks. The government doesn't ever look to see if you're really a citizen. And all you have to do is fill out a form, Megan, that says, yes, I'm a citizen, you get on the rolls. That's why we have, in Pennsylvania, thousands of aliens are on the rolls. The Public Interest Legal Foundation did a study in Virginia where we found over 5,000 aliens who were removed from the rolls. It doesn't even count all the ones who were on in the first place. These are people removed for citizenship defects, many of whom voted. And so the biggest influence from a foreign interest on our elections are aliens getting on the rolls and voting. Do we know how many? No, because nobody has dared ask the question to quantify it, but that's one of the things we're trying to do.
And why do you think no one wants to we were quite surprised because in Nevada, as you are aware, we had massive voter registration drives that were led by George Soros Operation Plan Nevada, Culinary Union 226, La Familia Vota, who had taco trucks nearly on every corner. And I knew that they weren't checking citizenship of registrations. And what really they were doing was just flooding the Secretary of State's office and the registrar's office with voter registrations. Now, it was brought to my attention through the registrar's office as well as the Secretary of State of Nevada that they have no record that they can check the citizenship of voters against those registrations. Is that really a true statement? Could they access a database actually that's held by the Department of Homeland Security called SAVE?
Right. Well, look, they could, but the problem is the Department of Homeland Security makes it very difficult to use the database, and that has not changed during the Trump administration. And the SAVE database is basically any alien who's in the system, whether they were picked up at the border, whether they applied for a green card. And in theory, election officials could be checking that, but as a practical matter, nobody is because DHS makes it virtually impossible to use. You have to have their alien number. And whenever you fill out a voter registration form, these people getting registered in Nevada who might be aliens are not exactly turning over, Megan, their alien number when they're filling out the voter form. So ultimately, SAVE is useless the way that DHS constructs the search queries.
Now, I understand that Florida actually had to sue to get that data. Did they won, and did that data somehow help them clean up the voter rolls?
Well, that's a happy and sad story at the same time, yes. Florida ultimately sued because states have a right to this data under federal law. Florida sued to get access to the SAVE database because the Holder Obama administration was blocking it. They wouldn't even give them the data, at all. So they sued, they won, they got the data, but the problem is that DHS made the data so limiting that when Florida finally sent a list of possible alien matches to local election officials to investigate, there were some problems with the list. There were some false positives. And, of course, all the crazy left-wing groups went berserk and screamed and yelled and wailed and gnashed their teeth, claiming that Jim Crow was back on the prowl. And they scared and bullied these local officials into stopping the inquiry, the investigation as to how many aliens were actually on the rolls. So even there, what ought to be a happy story, Megan, ended up being a sad one.
So we have massive voter registration drives, always, of course, in the campaign season. What are the stopgap measures that we can implement or that you propose so that we can ensure that only citizens are registered to vote and are voting?
Sure. A couple of things that can be done. The easiest one to do, and some places do it, is jury duty declination forms. Think about it. A lot of times people get called to jury duty, and it's based on the voter rolls. Not always, but sometimes. And they get out of jury duty in many cases, Megan, by saying, hey, not only, some people have to work, but they also have a space on the form that says, I'm not a U.S. citizen. You have to be a U.S. citizen to serve on a jury. Or they're dead. The notice went to a dead person's house. Or they moved away from Nevada. States ought to be utilizing this jury declination data to help them find people who aren't eligible to vote that are on the rolls. But most states don't do anything with it. Some states do, and they should be applauded. But Nevada should pass a law that allows election officials to use jury declination data to hunt down aliens on the voter rolls in Nevada.
And that's really only if the aliens have received a request for jury duty. Not everybody. That's right. I mean, this is just kind of a Band-Aid, I think, on a much larger problem. Is that really going to solve the problem, or are there additional steps that can be taken?
Great point, Megan. It is a Band-Aid on a larger problem. Right now nothing's being done. The wound is bleeding out. So a Band-Aid is a first start. There are other things that can be done. And among them are a Citizenship Verification Law. Now, my group, Public Interest Legal Foundation, is in court in D.C., in federal court, to try to defend Kansas and Arizona, Georgia and Alabama Citizenship Verification Law from an attack by the League of Leftist Women Voters. And I put the word leftist in there, but that's what they really are. That's what they ought to call themselves. Mm-hmm. And these groups are trying to stop states from actually utilizing citizenship verification procedures at registration. So it really tells you when they're so obsessed with keeping flaws and vulnerabilities in the system, you can only conclude that they like it the way it is, and they benefit from aliens voting for their particular partisan interests.
On what grounds are they contesting to protect that data or to deny citizen verification laws?
Right. Well, the EAC is a federal agency that does the form. They do the federal form that under motor voter is adequate to register to vote. It's a federal law passed in 93. If you fill out this federal form in your state, you have to be put on the voter rolls. Well, you can ask for state-specific instructions. And so Alabama and Georgia and Kansas asked for, hey, let us put our citizenship verification instructions on the form. And the EAC said yes, but then these left-wing groups sued the EAC and said, you should not have allowed these states to alter the form. I mean, it's very intricate, but that's essentially what their theory is. It's a bureaucratic theory as opposed to some sort of substantive one.
I'm on Wayne Allen Root's show twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday, and I had listened to an interview that you had given to him, and I thought I had caught your mentioning that you had actually filed a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA request, with the Clark County Registrar's Office.
What we did is Public Interest Legal Foundation filed, it's a little different than FOIA, it's a motor voter public inspection request. And that's what we've been doing around the country. And Clark, we did it because of a sanctuary city issue where we want to know how many aliens they have found on the rolls. I mean, this is public data, and we're finding in major metropolitan areas all around the country that aliens are in fact getting on the rolls, they're voting, and sometimes they're being caught and quietly removed from the voter rolls. And so we have an outstanding request with Clark County for the records associated with aliens on the rolls. This is a federal law, not a state FOIA, so it's a lot more punch to it. Okay. And so far I cannot report that Clark County has been terribly forthcoming.
Well, that's not unusual. You're not special in that respect. When did you file that, and how long did they have to reply?
Well, they basically they have about 90 days before they can be sued, and we're probably in the period where if they don't turn over the data or allow inspection, they're going to be sued.
Fantastic. I like to hear that because I think that our Secretary of State kicks our requests down to the registrar's office, who then responds usually on time. However, they say, we have no way of checking the citizenship of registered voters. And when you look at Nevada as a state, it was targeted by the left. And now that Alabama was won, the Democrats have a focus in which it was published on CNN that they want to try to flip the Senate by taking Nevada, by taking Arizona, and other states. And so Nevada is, again, the target. And I say this because Donald Trump, our president, only lost by 27,000 votes this last election. We're not a densely populated state. And when I look at the latest purge of the voter rolls conducted by the Secretary of State here, she dumped 38,000 voters from the rolls in just the month of October of this year.
Right. Well, look, that's good news that you have a Secretary of State doing list maintenance. I can't say enough good things about your Secretary of State. The problem is that the local officials, the ones who have their boots on the ground, are the ones who often aren't doing their job. And in Clark County, you have a particular problem with these drives going on where aliens are getting on the rolls inadvertently or deliberately, however it is, and you obviously don't have a very transparent local election office.
No, we do not. No, we do not. Now, we have a couple minutes left in this segment, and then we'll have to bid adieu until next time. But tell us about the recall election that you're involved in.
Right. The senators out there are facing a recall, and the state is being sued by Hillary Clinton's lawyer, Mark Elias, and to try to invalidate Nevada's recall election law. And they're claiming that it's discriminatory against minorities because minorities can't be troubled to go vote twice, or they can't be troubled to learn about the issues. This is not me saying that. That's what their own complaint says.
Oh,
and so what... I'm sorry, go ahead, Megan.
I was just going to say the soft bigotry of low expectations, yes.
Right. And so my organization, the Public Interest Legal Foundation, has intervened in the case, we'll see if we get in, to defend Nevada, to help defend Attorney General Adam Laxalt's effort to defend Nevada state law, which says, you know what, we want recall elections sometimes in Nevada. I'm not saying they should be recalled. I'm saying that Nevada has the power under the Constitution to devise their own electoral system, and that's what Hillary's lawyer is attacking, is Nevada's state sovereignty.
Well, I can't thank you enough for fighting on behalf of Nevadans here, many of which you've never met. So I appreciate the work that you do at the Public Interest Legal Foundation, and tell people how they can find you.
Publicinterestlegal.org.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be in touch soon, Christian. I look forward to it, and I thank you, and have a very Merry Christmas.
Take care, Megan.
Thank you.